Hi, my name is Peter Bunzl, author of the Cogheart adventure series, which you may know. This is the first book in the series, Cogheart, and the second book is called Moonlocket, and the third book is Sky Circus, and the fourth and final book in the series is called Shadowsea. I'm here today to tell you about my new book, publishing on the 1st of April with Barrington Stoke. That is called Featherlight, and it is a short adventure story for reluctant readers or dyslexic readers, and it's published by Barrington Stoke. The story is set on an old-fashioned oil-powered lighthouse on an island called Featherstone Island off the coast of England. The main character is this girl called Darling, and she lives on Featherstone Island with her parents, the lighthouse keepers, in the lighthouse keeper's cottage beneath the lighthouse. There's no one else that lives on the island, just them. One day an emergency arises and her mum and dad have to go to the mainland on their boat, and they leave Darren all alone on the island to keep watch over the lighthouse. Darren is there all by herself on the island doing the chores and keeping an eye on the light in the lighthouse, making sure it's still lit. A little bird crashes into the glass and Darren rescues it and tries to nurse it back to health. But while she's waiting for her parents to return, she finds herself in a terrible storm and the lamp runs out of oil. With the fishing boat in trouble on the sea, Darren seeks help from an unusual source. Will she be able to keep the lantern lit through the dark and dangerous night? So you can see the beautiful cover of the book was designed by Evan Hollingdale, and the interior illustrations were done by a lady called Anneli Bray, and they look beautiful as well. So I'm going to read you an extract from the first 2 chapters of the book right now, and then I'm going to tell you about some of the real female lighthouse keepers that inspired Darren's story. Chapter 1. After Midnight. Mum shakes me awake in the middle of the night. She's sitting on the end of my bed and her face looks worried. Outside my window, the light from the lighthouse sweeps across the bay. Mum, I ask, what's the matter? The baby's coming early, Darren, Mum says. I have to go to the mainland and get help. Mum sounds scared. Panic makes my chest feel all spiky. I need you to fetch your father, Mum says to me. I scramble to my feet and put on my slippers. My hands shake as I light the oil lamp beside the bed. A book of fairy tales I was reading before I went to sleep slips from the table. It falls to the floor with a loud crash. Mum picks the book up and shuts it. Hurry, she cries. I leave her and race out. The rooms in our cottage are dark and silent. The only sound I can hear are the creak of the wind on the roof tiles and the wash of the waves in the distance. I push open the door that leads to the lighthouse. The stone walls inside curve around in a circle. A thick pipe sprouts from the floor up to the top of the tower, taking oil from the tanks in the cellar up to the light. I climb the spiral stairs, holding the lamp in front of me, and open the door at the top. This is the keeper's office, my favourite room in the lighthouse. The pipes run right up into here. Beside the pipe is a writing desk and a curved bookcase full of books on the sea, ships, tides, flags, stars and nature, books about the birds and animals that live on the island. They contain everything you need to know to be a lighthouse keeper. My dad is sitting in his armchair, writing in his red logbook. His lantern, flask of tea and telescope are on the table beside him. A fire crackles in the grate of the stove by Dad's feet. He's been up here all night, keeping an eye on the ocean and checking on the lantern light upstairs. It's the most important part of his job. The light from the lighthouse keeps people at sea safe. What is it, Darren? Dad asks when he sees me. It's Mum, I say. She needs you. And Dad knows exactly what I mean. Come on, he says, standing up and taking his coat from the back of the door. Chapter 2, A Nighttime Goodbye. In the cottage, Dad finds Mum's leather bag, which she's already packed in preparation for this day. Then Mum, Dad and I set out across the island towards the jetty. It is a Sunday night in late October and there are no boats in the bay. Every few seconds the lighthouse beam sweeps across us. Dad links his arm with Mum's while I walk ahead. I'm carrying Dad's lantern so we can see our way along the path in the dark when the flashing light is facing the other way. We're the only people who live on this island, and the lighthouse and the cottage are the only buildings here. The sea around us is filled with rocks that are as sharp as swords, as sharp as your worst worries. Those rocks are hidden beneath the waves. They can sink a ship and take your life. They have killed many people in the past, and they will cut you to shreds if you let them. That's why the lighthouse is here, to warn of those dangers. But Mum and Dad will be all right in our small boat. Dad is a good sailor and knows how to navigate in the dark, and tonight the sea is calm. Soon the jetty and the boat are in view. Gentle waves lap against the stony beach and the boat's hull. Dad steps down into the boat and I pass him the lantern. Mum hugs me goodbye. I put my hand on her belly, which is round as a ball. The baby kicks beneath my palm and Mum winces. I will miss you, I say. I won't be gone long, Darren, Mum says. She's smiling, but her eyes are full of worry. Why don't you let me come along? I blurt out. I could look after you. This will be my first time alone on the island. I haven't ever been away from my parents before, and they've never been away from me. I'll be fine, Mum tells me. She wipes a wisp of hair from my face and kisses my cheek. We're going to stay with Grandma, like I did when you were born. Your dad will fetch the midwife, and she and Grandma will both be there to help me during the birth. What about me? I ask. What should I do? You've got the most important job, Mum says. You must stay here and take care of the lighthouse until we get back. When will that be? I ask. Tomorrow, Dad says. As soon as Mum's had the baby. You'll be fine to make your way home in the dark, won't you, Darren? I nod. I have the light to guide me, I tell Dad. Good, he says. He sounds a bit unsure. Keep the watch and promise me you'll do your schoolwork and chores in the morning. I don't want you spending the day running around the island chasing seabirds. I promise, I say. By the time you're done with that, we should be back, Mum adds. She takes Dad's hand and he helps her down into the boat. I untie the mooring while Dad mans the tiller and the bowline. Goodbye and good luck, Darren darling, Mum calls out, her voice cracking with worry. You be good. You too, I shout as the boat sails off. See you soon. I watch the boat get smaller. Fear flaps inside me like a ragged sail in the storm. The tiny lantern of the boat's prow floats like a firefly in the darkness as Dad steers between the rocks. The next time I see Mum, she will have a baby in her arms. That's if things go well. From their worried look, I'm not so sure they will. So that is the opening pages of the book. So there were two real-life lighthouse keepers' daughters who inspired the story, and they were called Grace Darling, and her father, William Darling, was the lighthouse keeper on the Farne Islands off the coast of Northumberland. And in 1838, when Grace was 22, she looked out the window on a stormy night and spotted a ship that had been wrecked nearby on the rocks. And she and her father rowed out from the lighthouse in their little boat, risking their lives to rescue 5 of the fishermen who were stranded on board that boat. The second lighthouse keeper was Ida Lewis, who was born in 1842 in Rhode Island, America. Ida was 12 years old when she made her first rescue, saving 4 men whose boat had turned over. When Ida was 27, she made her most famous rescue of 2 soldiers who were sailing across the harbour in a snowstorm when their boat capsized. Both Ida and Grace were famous for their daring rescues, and they inspired the character of Derrin in the story Featherlight. So the last thing we're going to try and do today is draw our own lighthouse. So what you need is a ruler and a pencil. So I'm going to put my ruler on the page and then I'm going to just draw around it like so. That gives you quite a good shape for a lighthouse. You can see maybe the roof is there and this is where the light is here. So I'm going to just put the windows on. I'm not very good at drawing today, as you can see. And then it probably has like a balcony around here with bars. This is where the lighthouse keeper can go to clean the glass on the outside or rescue any birds that have sort of crashed into the lighthouse. Then it has stripes, so I'm just going to divvy up the lighthouse like that to put the stripes on it. And then at the bottom here there's probably a cottage, a bit like that one, and you can see Evan's drawings is much better than mine. This is where the lighthouse keeper lives, in the cottage, and the actual door of the cottage will connect right into the lighthouse so that they can go from the cottage into the lighthouse. So I'm going to put some rocks there and maybe a path leading up to the house. And then there's probably another door so you can go straight directly into the lighthouse. And then stairs would go up inside here, so they have a window on each floor so that you can look out while you're climbing the stairs. And one of these rooms on one of the floors will actually be the lighthouse keeper's room. I've got this bright pink Sharpie here, and I think the reason, I'm not sure, but I think the reason that they did stripes like this was so that you could see the lighthouse when you were far out to sea, and maybe the different stripes or the different patterns on it, you would know which lighthouse that was, and so you would know where you were if you saw it in the daytime. This pen's not very good, it's running out of ink already, but you get the idea. I've actually got this, what do you call it, luminous pen like that for highlighting things. So if you've got like a luminous pen, that's probably a really good one to colour in your lighthouse light with. I'm going to do some other rays coming out of it like that, and on that side. So you can probably put a bit more detail in than that. Like for example on Evan's drawing, he's done shading down the side, so maybe you want to put a little bit of shade. You can probably do a much better job than me here to make it look like a proper 3D lighthouse. You'd never know that I went to art school, would you? From the quality of that drawing. But hey, I did. And maybe you want to draw the rest of the island here that the lighthouse is on. So some lighthouses are on islands around the coast and others are on cliff tops. And in the story, the lighthouse Derrin lives in is on an island. And so that, I thought that was important for the story because I wanted her to be stuck there on her own and not be able to get help easily. And I think being stuck on an island lighthouse is maybe a bit more scary than being stuck on the mainland, because if you're on the mainland and you need help, you can just go to the nearest village and find someone to help you. and so you are probably not going to get in as much trouble as you would if you were stuck alone on an island like Darren is in the story. So there you go, that is my drawing of a lighthouse. And maybe if it's by the sea, you're going to have some big waves crashing over the edges like this. Like Evan's drawn some big waves in this cover drawing here. And then Ellie's drawn some beautiful big waves in her interior drawings. If there was a big storm, you'd have the waves coming in like this. So there you go, big waves crashing. And that's why they had to make the stone walls of the lighthouses so thick so that they would protect the people inside from the waves, especially the lighthouses on an island, or some lighthouses were on like a tiny man-made island that they'd built out in the ocean, and so they had to make those really, the walls of those lighthouses had to be really, really thick, and the lighthouse had to be tall, and it had to be reinforced at the bottom so that the sea, which was always battering against the lighthouse, couldn't sort of smash the lighthouse to pieces, which was always a risk if you hadn't built it properly. So that's a nice drawing of the lighthouse there. I think you could probably write some words about your lighthouse and the storm. So I'm going to stop right there, but if you've enjoyed this session and learning about lighthouses, learning how to draw your own lighthouse, hopefully you will give my book Featherlight a try. I just want to thank Tales on Moon Lane for inviting me over to their channel today to do this event, and finally I just want to say happy reading and goodbye.